Well, good morning and welcome to the Real Monica Adams Show, brought to you by our friends at Invita Health and Wellness. If you haven't been there, you've got to go. Changing your life inside and out. They're in Kirkwood, right down the street from where we do our mobile version every Wednesday and Friday. It's 333 South Kirkwood Road. I want you to check them out, InvitaHealthAndWellness.com. And we actually have Dr. Sara on our show today. We thought we wanted to talk about hydration for athletes. And so all of us that ever played sports think soccer, and we think about football, baseball players, but more so really as we get into the football soccer season right now, hydration. Moms for JFL or for CYC and all those things we played when we were kids, moms were always tasked, or dads, with bringing water. Who's got water for the day? Who's got the oranges? All about the importance of hydration for your kids. And we're talking about hot weather. Obviously, as we get into fall and winter, a little bit better, but always needing hydration. Well, that's how it used to be done. Sara and I were talking recently, and she said she was asked by a football team to come 2 hours from St. Louis and provide hydration therapy. We've been talking about all the great things they do with IV hydration therapy when you come to Invita Health and Wellness. But we're talking about on the sidelines. She's even seen it in college and NFL. Now it's a thing, and getting the hydration into the body quicker. We'll talk about the advantages of that. And we're changing seasons. I've had dermatologists on my radio shows and TV shows in the past. We always talked about how you take care of your skin at the change of every season. Some women and men have said, when should I go get facials? And most estheticians will tell you, well, if you're not doing it on a regular basis, at least with the change of every season. So at least 4 times a year if you're not doing it all. So shedding the skin you're in and hydrating you. We're going to do all of that when we return. Dr. Sara Franco in the blue chair. Invita Health and Wellness, where you can feel your best both inside and out. Invita isn't your typical med spa. They're a multi-specialty medical spa and wellness center serving St. Louis and its surrounding areas. They have ketamine for mental health and pain, IV therapy, medical weight loss, and aesthetics treatments. As board-certified anesthesia providers, Invita can ensure that their advanced treatments are provided safely with minimal to no pain. So let Invita take care of you. Call 314-394-0950 to book an appointment, or online, InvitaHealthAndWellness.com. Welcome back, and thanks again for all of you tuning in and for all of our sponsors. We couldn't do this without you to continue to spread the message that really is benefiting your life, mentally, physically, spiritually. And the woman who right away said that she aligned with our mission, Dr. Sara Franco. She's in the blue chair this morning. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you again for all you've done for this show. So many people have said, I didn't know anything about them. I said, I know, and that's what this is all about. So you've been busy, I hear.
It has been very, very busy. Yes.
That's a good thing.
Yes. We love busy.
Absolutely. One of the things that we wanted to talk about today, let's start with this. So any of us that were athletes know the importance of hydration. But there's a long way we've come to the where we used to do it. Parents, as I mentioned in the beginning, bringing the water, bringing the Gatorades, the electrolytes, which are important. But now there's this shift. So tell me about the recent trip you took, a couple hours. You were in Quincy, Illinois.
We were, yeah. So we've been asked to come back. We helped out a football team last season, but in Quincy, Illinois, we were reached out by it was one of the athletes' fathers who owns a large physical therapy practice up there, reached out and said that a number of the players just kept just cramping up really during practice, and they were trying to stay hydrated. They were encouraging the boys to drink, a lot of water, replace electrolytes with things like bananas, oranges, as you mentioned, and things like that. But it was just they at that point, their running back and their quarterback, which were being looked at by and scouted by several larger schools, had not been able to make it through a game yet without cramping up by halftime. So they asked us to come up and pre-hydrate and then be available to hydrate the boys at halftime.
Now, that's the thing that you're starting to see. You said you turned on the TV and saw all these athletes on the sidelines with these IV bags. So it's catching on in the collegiate level, in the professional level. And you're like, hey, we're doing this here. So you're actually wanting more and more teams to be thinking about maybe doing this themselves.
We are. It's great. Hydration is great. There's a lot of times, though, especially with this heat, this heat wave that we're having this week, that the level of activity is just the amount of water that you drink and that stays actually intravascular, it's just really hard to keep up with that, with the amount of weight that you lose or the water that you lose, with sweating and high levels of activity.
So let's talk about why the cramping happens. That's the one thing that, parents don't know what they can do for their kids when their kids are saying, Mom, Dad, I'm cramping during the games. What's happening in our body when that happens?
So it's basically a buildup of lactic acid, and it's just muscle fatigue. So what we need water for is there to a number of things: to keep blood pressure up so that the heart doesn't have to work as hard while you're working out, to kind of dilute out, if you will, kind of oversimplifying, the blood, and to wash away some of those waste products and things like that. Whenever there's a buildup of those products, lactic acid, ammonia, things like that in the muscles, that's when you get those cramps.
So for those of you just tuning in, once again, we're talking with Sara Franco from Invita Health and Wellness. We're talking about you as an athlete. We're talking about your children, your grandkids, your nieces, your nephews. We want to take care of them. Now, for those of you that work out, and for those of us that are trainers, we always say that when you're training and you get that soreness, that's your lactic acid that's building up. I don't know how many times I've always said you've got to flush it out. You've got to flush it out. Otherwise, that cramping's always going to happen. Does it? So if we're talking about working out or lifting or playing a game, that's one thing. But what about the people who regularly have the calf cramps or they have the Charlie horses? Why is that happening?
It's really the same thing. And also a decrease in electrolytes. Everyone, I had always heard growing up, you need to eat more bananas. It isn't always potassium. A lot of times it's magnesium. Magnesium, which is linked to things like inflammation, headaches, sleep cycle. There's a lot of things that magnesium is linked to, but one of the things, it's a membrane stabilizer. It's one of the electrolytes that are naturally occurring in the body. And on a daily basis, we typically have enough of that in our diet. But if you're doing any kind of extra activity, or if you've been sick or any of those things, and you have a decrease in that, then a lot of times that's when you see those Charlie horses and leg cramps, particularly at night when you're not up moving around and things like that.
And I'm going to go back to a show we've done before. So some people might hear that and say, okay, like you said, potassium, they get it from bananas, but then there's a lot of sugars that you're taking in. Okay, maybe we'll get potassium from different greens and foods,
leafy vegetables,
right?
Yeah.
So there, I would like that better as a trainer. I'd like that better, by the way. Not against bananas, but just on a regular basis. So then the magnesium aspect, they might go, oh, okay, do I need to go buy a supplement? We mentioned on a previous show how people are popping this supplement and that pill, this vitamin, but it's also the amount they're taking in. Are they taking in too much? It's so confusing for them. And for the general public, I feel bad for them because they hear, if they're going online and just trying to Google, it's what source are they going to? Or they're hearing this show or that show, and it's frustrating for them. So the best way you would recommend would be for more of a hydration, IV hydration aspect than taking the actual pill. Why is that?
It's the bioavailability. So when we take something in by mouth, then be it a vitamin, your medication, those kind of things, there's different routes of administration. So when you take something in by mouth, depending on the bioavailability, there's definitely medications that you absorb better. But by the time your stomach has done its work on it, your duodenum or small intestines have done its work, it's gone through your liver, the amount of medication that's actually getting to where it needs to, or electrolytes or vitamins, is questionable. Mm-hmm. So, when you take these daily supplements, and we never tell anyone to not take their vitamins, everyone's trying to do the right thing for their body. But the fact of the matter is, with most vitamins, you're only absorbing between 7 and 17% of them. So you may think you're taking 1,000 milligrams of magnesium, but you're probably only absorbing 70 to 150 milligrams of magnesium, which is well below a daily recommended amount of magnesium. So if you're not getting that in your diet, then you're always going to just be playing catch up and chasing after, that optimal number.
What about those people who are so afraid to have an IV? They had a horror story, because I had somebody the other day said, Monica, I've been hearing you talk about this. I so want to go see Sara and the staff, but I am deathly afraid from one incident that happened in her life that she's so fearful. And I said, why do you want to go to Invita? We mentioned this before. You have a big background in anesthesia. You're very, very driven on, hey, the reason why we're doing what we do and why we do it well is because of the experience factor. It's because of that background. It's because of the trust factor. But what do you want to say to her and to everybody else that says, yes, Monica, I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm so fearful of IVs.
So we can tell you, one, our providers are all very trained and skilled in IVs. So unfortunately, in anesthesia, a lot of our nurses have an emergency room background and things like that. And those are the nurses who are generally the ones that are on the forefront of putting IVs in. So, you don't want to get too overconfident, but we're pretty skilled at putting IVs in. Another thing that we offer at Invita, and this is for a variety of services, is anesthesia. So we have numbing cream. So if you have an extra 30 to 45 minutes, we can put some numbing cream on that will both help dilate that vein so it's easier to get into, as well as kind of minimize any kind of stick or that kind of thing that you're going to feel when we start that IV.
Okay, so again, IV hydration therapy is what we're discussing with Dr. Sara Franco, Invita Health and Wellness, which you've been hearing on our show since we launched. So it's 333 South Kirkwood Road, invitahealthandwellness.com. So let's talk about what's in the bags that these athletes are getting. What's the most important? If we hear we got a water in front of you, we always ask our guests, you want water? I'm very big on hydration. I've got my bubbly as well. And you know what? This is a good thing to ask. So what's in this and what's in that? Is there a huge difference? Would you prefer that it be, if we are not getting the IV hydration, is it better for us to have water than it is to have, this probably has sodium in it?
Right. So we're looking at anywhere between 110 to 200 milligrams of sodium per day. So I don't know what's in your can of bubbly, but it is very important to have that balance there. The body is always trying to
a zero.
Okay. Well, then
so never mind.
That might not be the best thing if you're trying to keep things intravascular. So that is where we definitely advocate for things like Gatorade and some of those drinks. But again, you have to look at kind of the sugar content and things, which are things that you want to stay away from. Those are going to kind of naturally dehydrate the body. But
wait, say that again. So the sugar is dehydrating us.
The sugar will dehydrate you.
I think you all need to hear that because, okay, well, that's interesting then. So those that are triathletes and runners and cyclists, and, we talk about the lactic acid. So think about a swim, bike, run. And we do brick training from swimming to then biking and then running. And the legs are just building up with lactic acid. But then people do those goo packets and things that have so high aspects of sugar. Is that not a good thing?
It's a good thing for the energy level and kind of that boost that you're going to need. And we do have to keep our blood sugars up as well. So if you're doing a lot of sweating, it's not that you do not want any sugar. It's just that you want a balance of those things. Anytime if you get too much sodium or you get too much sugar, then those are going to be the things that can actually dehydrate the body. So.
Interesting. See, that's why we bring her on. These are the things that we need to know. Yes, the balance. Well, I talk about the balance of life in another way, and she's from the medical standpoint. That's fascinating. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, talking more about your athletes and maybe something coaches. I want you to be listening, or I want you to share this with coaches in the area, and then not even just locally, regionally, all throughout the U.S. I want them to be thinking about this. We're going to have more about the athletes, and then we're also going to talking about shedding the skin you're in as we transition summer, fall, then getting into winter, and how you take care of your skin different. More on that when we return.
It's the icing on the cake.
The final brush stroke.
The finishing touches make all the difference in your home, too.
Have fun and get started at carolhouse.com/room planner.
With thousands of accessories in our 3.5-acre showroom.
Get your picture-perfect room and the lowest prices in the country at Carol House.
Because you like nice things.
Of course, it's great to get outside and enjoy the warm weather, but when it's time to relax indoors, be sure your home stays cool with equipment and service from my friends at Aldon. 24-hour emergency service available. At Aldon, it's their commitment to continue providing above and beyond HVAC service for all of their customers. They truly care about the air you breathe. Call them today at 314-567-5585 or on the web, aldon.com. That's al-don.com, 314-567-5585. Welcome back, and thanks again for joining us. It's the Real Monica Adams Show, and we are joined by Dr. Sara Franco from Invita Health and Wellness. If you missed the beginning part, go back after the show is wrapped up. Be sure to catch that beginning part because we're talking about hydration, lactic acid, electrolytes, what's most important for you, the athlete, and athletes from very, very young all the way up. And I love the fact that you continue working out as you get older. Age is just a number, so don't ever stop moving, but you always have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. So Sara, you've been talking about the IV hydration therapy that you did. Again, we mentioned you drove to Quincy and did that, and then you started thinking like more and more football coaches, soccer coaches might want to be thinking about this. Do you think that as they realize, well, wow, this is easier for my athletes to get the hydration and get back into the game quicker than, as you're mentioning, how long it may take for us to have the banana or the oranges or the electrolytes or whatever to get into us. Do you think this is going to be more common?
I do. I think once athletes and their parents and the coaching staff and physical therapy staff, when they see the benefits as well as how fast this acts, they're gonna realize that there's quite a bit of benefit here.
How many people would you need on the sidelines to be able to take care of an entire team?
So for the football team, we took 2 nurses with us in order to hydrate between 12 and 14 of the boys. It varied from game to game, but they had definitely their starting team that we provided the additional hydration to, and it was kind of an assembly line kind of thing. So, and the boys were great. They would pump up their own pressure bags, and by the time we would get to the end, it would be time for the first boy to have his bag switched out. So it became a very much kind of a group effort, and everybody worked together, and we got those bags in.
How old was it? Was this high school?
This was high school. It was the varsity football team.
So yeah, so this is something, and you and I had talked about it recently, and you said, I think this is something that we should probably do more of. So if somebody is interested, they're a coach, they're listening right now, or they're getting this shared with them, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
You can reach out to Invita Health and Wellness. We're happy to set up a discussion with you, just kind of let you know what we can offer you. We give the boys or girls the bags of fluid, and then we're able to kind of customize based on the, if it's going to be an indoor sport, an outdoor sport, how long of a sport, exactly how much fluid they're going to need, the fluid replacement. We can calculate sweat value, how much they're going to be sweating each day. And then just kind of look at overall what the needs are of the team, and if there's anything in addition to just the fluid that we need to put in the bags in order to supplement the athletes.
So pass this along for the coaches and the athletes that are watching. After you did that, did you get some feedback from the coach or from the team themselves of how they felt that it changed and maybe how it changed their performance?
The players were very grateful during the game. The boys no one cramped up, luckily. And that was the day that the first day that we went were the day that there were 3 or 4 schools there scouting the boys, who actually went on to go ahead and play football for those teams. So that was, that worked out in the benefit. But a lot of the boys and their parents, some of the parents even started asking for bags too. They were like, if we come in, they just talk about how good they're feeling afterward. And, if you've ever been to an emergency room, sometimes we just get low on fluid. A liter of fluid does everyone good. You just feel better, and it improves everything. It improves your blood pressure. It improves microcirculation. When you replace those electrolytes and things like that, it's going to improve things like mental clarity. Those are just all things that you can get just from a bag of fluid. And one thing to keep in mind is, we definitely tell people in a variety of the services that we offer there that drinking water is important. So 1/2 ounce to 1 ounce per pound of body weight that you have per day is what you need to be drinking. But what you need to keep in mind is when you're drinking all that fluid, and I have patients tell me all the time, I drink water all day long and I still feel dehydrated. It's not necessarily going where it needs to go. It's great for flushing out your kidneys, flushing out those muscles, but you have to have fluid that is staying intravascular. So when we give an IV, that is fluid that's going directly into the bloodstream versus you ingesting it going into the stomach, it being absorbed by the bloodstream or moving from an area of higher concentration to lower concentration, which I had mentioned prior to the break about the body always trying to balance itself. So that's why there has to be that balance, and you're going to be pulling fluid from from areas where you do not want fluid, like lower extremities and dependent extremities, back intravascular where your body can actually use that.
I heard something the other day, Sarah, that if we're coming up, and you had mentioned like the hot days of summer, and we had this incredible hot streak hitting 100, hitting above 100, and how dangerous it is for so many people on every level. And then you have these athletes that want to be out there, and I see people running and walking the dogs in the hottest part of the day, and it just blows my mind how dangerous that is, and having to have more fluids on top of just a normal day. But I heard somebody say that if you're trying to prevent the dehydration aspect, you are actually behind the game if you are trying to drink it the day of, that it almost had to be 24 hours before. Is that true?
It is true. Definitely, if you are able to have that fluid intravascularly and mobilize that fluid, that's going to be the best case scenario. So there were a number of days that we actually went up if they were playing in a championship game, or when they made it to districts, that we went up the day before and hydrated the athletes. So that's when a lot of the vitamins and additives that we give, glutathione, those kind of things, are able to work better. And that's some of the feedback that we got from the boys. We felt really good the day of, but man, the next day we really felt good. And that's because you're getting ahead of the game. So we always stress to them, you need to be pre-hydrating. We need to hydrate at the game, and then you need to be hydrating afterward as well. It's not just a one and done, and you don't have to think about it anymore.
I do want to say this, because every time I have something on that has a medical connection, I obviously want you to check in with your doctor. I did, and we're going to tell that story, because IV hydration therapy and several of these things are not for everyone. It's not just a one-stop shop and, hey, you all can do it. You do have to check with your doctor. For me, because of my blood clotting history, he was not a fan of it. It frustrates me because I loved how I felt the one and only time I had it done. But he wasn't a fan. Now, again, that's one doctor's opinion. If I came to you, and I'm just going to throw this out there, because I have had some people say, well, maybe get another opinion. Just like I always say, get another opinion. If I came to you and said that I had Leiden factor 5 and I had this massive blood clot when I was 19, would that be a red flag right away for you to go, I don't know that I want to do this with you? Or what would you say?
Well, respectfully, I would actually say hydration would be in your benefit versus wanting to avoid it, just because, and this is definitely oversimplifying, but you're kind of diluting out the blood. So if you think about having maybe not blood necessarily, but if you had a cup of syrup, okay, which we'll say is your blood, and then you add water to it, it's going to kind of dilute out and thin out that syrup. That's going to improve things like microcirculation through organs, through your vascular system, through your kidneys, and keep things flushed out. So as long as you have normal kidney function, and you do not have to worry about the cardiovascular effects, because if you're adding volume to your intravascular space, your heart is going to have to work harder. In some instances, depending on the amount of volume. If you have too much volume, like congestive heart failure, then your heart is working harder. But if you're diluting out the blood, then it can actually cause your heart to work less hard, because it's not having to pump as hard to pump. The viscosity of your blood is going to change. So for someone that has blood clotting problems, you're actually changing the viscosity, which is going to improve your microcirculation.
And that's how I looked at it. His comment was, anytime an IV, though, is being drawn, that is a clotting fear. That was his comment.
That needs to be a consideration. So that's why it should be a consideration where you go to have these kind of things done.
Exactly.
So if you're doing it under sterile technique and you're doing everything that we would do in a normal hospital setting, then there's no reason that this would be any more dangerous than anything that you would receive in a hospital.
So when, going back to the athletes, when you are drawing that IV on them, what's inside that bag? Does it depend, or what did you have inside for those football players?
It is going to depend. So what we included for the football players is we use lactated ringers, which is a fairly isotonic, meaning very similar to the pH and composition of the blood. We use lactated ringers. It contains a little bit of potassium. We added magnesium, some B complex, and then some things like glutathione, alpha lipoic acid, just some of those other things that we know helps with muscle recovery and helps on more of the athletic performance side of things as far as endurance and things like that.
This just popped in my head. what happens, and I see a lot of this with people, especially during hot days of summer, they will all of a sudden see their ankles and they'll see more swelling, edema that will happen. What is that coming from? And then is something like this going to help that?
It is actually going to help it, because if what you're having there is your fluid is moving from an area, like I mentioned before, of higher concentration to lower concentration. So if you do not have enough solutes in your blood, things like electrolytes and proteins and things like that, that's what pulls the fluid from tissues back intravascularly. If there is a decrease in that amount of solute, then it's going to move to an area of higher concentration, which would be more your tissues. And that's when you see the fluid move from the intravascular side to extravascular, and it's going to go out and dilute out those areas. That's when you get the swelling in your feet and your fingers and things like that.
So who would not be a candidate for having IV hydration therapy?
Well, we need to look at, like I mentioned, any kind of patient that has any issues with their heart or their lungs are going to be two of the top things that we look at. So if you do not have normal renal function or you do not have normal cardiac function, then we need to see if the pros and cons outweigh each other. It doesn't mean that you're not able to have any fluid, but we may minimize the amount or the volume of fluid that we give you.
Okay. So if you're interested in this, and I want you, so you would probably have people come in for a consult before they would ever start this, or they would do it then maybe the day of.
We definitely do a consult the day of. So you don't, you walk in and you fill out a complete medical history form the first time. I or one of the other providers will look over that, and if there's any questions or anything that we need to address or concerns of yours, then we would address those. And then each time that you come in, we just ask, has there been any major change to your medical history? Okay. If you've added medication, if you've taken medication away, and a number of our patients do not even know the reason that they're on their medication. But as medical professionals, we can look at that and see if you're on amlodipine, then you probably have high blood pressure. If you're on Lasix, then you may be struggling with how you're utilizing your fluid. That's a diuretic, okay. And they're using that to pull fluid in so that it can be mobilized, go through the kidneys, and you can get rid of that fluid faster. So those would all be kind of red flags for us to probably ask a few more questions.
I love that you said most people have no clue why they're taking half the things they're taking, medicines and supplements. Right. They're just like, oh, I heard I'm supposed to take this. I'm like, but why are you taking it? Education is key, folks. So if you have coaches and athletes that are interested in this, if it's an entire team, the coach would have to provide the background on all the players to you in advance, right?
Yes. Okay. Yes. We would need a medical history on all the players. And then if they were under 18, of course, so we would need their parents' permission and a consent signed in order to be able to treat that athlete.
All right, so we're talking IV hydration therapy. We mentioned it a little bit in a past show, but we wanted to show you how it's benefiting your athletes, your young ones that are playing maybe high school or going into college. Now we're seeing it into the collegiate and in the pro level. And again, changing the game completely. We also are talking about the change of the season. I love football time, and we can tell fall is right around the corner. But what about our skin? Shedding that summer skin, hopefully it's not dry. Now you're always putting lotions and stuff on your body. But what about the face? What do we do with the face from the change of spring, summer, fall, winter? We're going to talk about that when we return. Hi, it's Monica Adams, and I just want to say thank you so much for following along since we launched The Real Monica Adams Show back in March. But I wanted to let you know there's so much more that our team can do for you, from styling to emceeing to life coaching to personal training, motivational speaking all around the world. If you have a company, a corporation, a business that would like to book us, email me, info@TheRealMonicaAdams.com. Let's change lives together in person. info@TheRealMonicaAdams.com. Welcome back. Again, it's The Real Monica Adams Show, streaming to you on both YouTube and Facebook. Thank you so much for watching, whether the show is live or we have some really impactful shows that we do record sometimes. I know everybody doesn't want to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning or actually be here at 7 o'clock in the morning. That's why we do that. But also to you, if you're able to watch the show live or just take it later, take it in increments, but make sure that you receive the message. We've got a great one for you today. And if you're just tuning in, you missed the aspect of IV hydration therapy for athletes, for you, and the importance of of it all. We're now going to shift it a little bit and talk about the change of the season. Speaking of shifting, coming out of summer, going into fall, once again, Dr. Sara Franco from Invita Health and Wellness. Now, Sara, I've talked to estheticians in the past about taking care of our face and facials, and people look at it as, oh, it's a luxury. No, it's really so that we take care of our skin. I've heard if you are not doing facials at all, that the most important thing would be at least 4 times a year. Shifting seasons. You agree with that?
I agree with that completely.
So as we're talking about facials, some people, Sara, they like to think of it as a luxury, which it's really not. It is an important facet of taking care of your skin. But if they only do it 4 times a year, that's still very important because we're talking about the change of seasons. Why is it so important to have those done at least 4 times a year?
It's just really important to stay on top of things. So with the changes of seasons, you have changes in temperature, changes in air composition. So you're looking at things like cleansing the moisturizer, cleansing the sunscreens. And it's kind of like it's a reminder, anytime there's that change, you change the batteries in your smoke detector. This is where you need to basically change that epidermal layer of your skin.
So I'm glad you talked about sunscreen. There's too many people that think once summer ends and we get into fall and winter, they need to stop wearing sunscreen. We should always be wearing sunscreen.
You always need to have sunscreen, particularly on your face. Yes.
And there are people, and I was one of them. I love the fact of the real aspect of this show. I was buying makeup or primer that said it had 35 SPF in it, and I thought that was enough. But what's in our makeup is not enough. Is that correct?
That is not enough. You need to have a minimum of 50 SPF for your face.
So yes. So again, I would say you can't do it enough, and it's all ethnicities, by the way, because there's a lot of people who are African American or other ethnicities, and they say, well, we have darker skin, we don't need it. That's not true either.
That is not true. No, they need it just as much as those of us with lighter skin tones.
I hope you heard that. Okay, so as we're shifting from summer into fall, what is the biggest thing that the people who are coming in, or those of you that we want to come in to see Sara and the staff, what are you looking at to take care of their skin as they shift from summer to fall?
So between summer and fall, we're looking at the damage that the sun has caused. So even on a good day, whenever you have if you wear your wide brimmed hat or you have an adequate amount of sunscreen on your face, we're still going to have some damage. And, freckles, I tell patients all the time, freckles are very cute, but all they are sun damage. So if you think back, no babies are ever born with freckles. Now you can develop them very quickly because depending on the amount of melanin and things like that in your skin and how much of those rays that you're absorbing, those skin textures and the pigment changes can happen very, very quickly. However, when they come in and they have age spots and freckles, melasma, which is kind of the darker hyperpigmentation that can come with heat and summertime, those are typically the areas that we're addressing for these patients.
So if they have those, then what are you doing there? What are the treatments you're able to have?
Well, there's a variety of treatments. It really depends on the patient, the amount of downtime. And when I say downtime, it's not that you're locked in your house and you can't leave. But there are definitely varying levels of treatment. So you could have anything from a hydrofacial where we just go in and
love a hydrofacial.
Hydrofacials are wonderful.
I need to come
so relaxing.
You know what? And this is how busy I've been, because ever since we first met and talked about you coming on the show and being a big sponsor of the show, we talked about hydrofacials, and I said I want one. And I hear Jamie gives the best ones because my friend Abby came in and she said she was wonderful.
Jamie is wonderful.
Yeah,
she is by far, hands down,
what
makes
her stand out?
She's trained professionally as an esthetician, so she definitely has that very, very wide knowledge level as far as skin and skin textures and things that we need to do. But just her caring nature, it isn't just a facial for her. She's not there to push. We don't push products on patients, but there's a trust factor that those patients develop with her, and she's a wealth of knowledge. You can tell her a problem that you're having with your skin, and she can tell you exactly what you need for that ailment. So.
I was told that you could really see her passion in it, and that's really what you should be doing in life anyways, going to someone who has passion for whatever you're looking for in life. As a passionate person, it comes out, it just oozes out of you, and so that's what I heard about her. So hydrofacials, what else?
We have a variety of different things. So we're offering, during this time of year, we offer discounts on chemical peels. And there's varying level of peels. You can have a lunchtime peel where you really do not, where you're not going to get that very, very heavy peeling of the skin, all the way to some of our medium and high level peels where you'll have 2 or 3 days of significant peeling. And we tell patients you can trim those with a pair of sterile scissors. You can trim the skin that is shedding off and that is peeling off, but you don't ever want to peel that skin. Just like a sunburn, you do not want to peel that skin. You can exfoliate, you can use loofah sponges and things like that to gently remove that skin, but you don't ever, as fun as it may be, you don't ever want to grab the skin and just peel it off. Yes.
Oh, okay. Let me ask this, because there's a lot of people who have never, I am one of them, had a chemical peel. Why would we need a chemical peel?
A chemical peel is going to just basically take away that epidermal layer. So that's the layer that is exposed to the direct UVA and UVB rays, and that is going to be the layer that is hopefully absorbing most of any of the damage that has happened. So by getting rid of that epidermal layer, you're going to do things like you're going to tighten your pores, you're going to stimulate your own collagen production, basically to grow skin from underneath and push the things that are on the bottom back up to the top. So chemical peels are great for things like acne, for just getting rid of any of that kind of dry or damaged skin, for lifting any kind of pigment issues, for tightening pores. We have a variety of different peels for a variety of different skin conditions.
And any side effects?
Other than the downtime of your skin peeling off, there's not really any side effects of the.
What would you recommend for someone who has rosacea or psoriasis, things like that?
So psoriasis is going to be a little trickier. We do not put chemical peels on any kind of open or broken skin.
Okay.
So if you do, and there are body peels. So if you do have psoriasis, we would have to avoid those areas on your face. But really any other area, and it's going to depend on what you're wanting to target. We have young girls that come in that are really suffering from, be it their diet or hormonal component with acne and things like that. There's chemical peels that are geared toward that. And then there's just chemical peels that are just geared toward just basically wiping the slate clean, starting with a nice fresh palette, getting rid of some of that damaged skin, and just starting off the fall with that nice glow.
Glow. That is the thing. You want to be told that you glow, and people will be wondering, if you're in the childbearing years, they might think that you're pregnant, but if you're out of that, it's like, wow, where's the glow coming from? A lot of times it comes from within because you're a happy person, but then it's taking care of the skin on the outside. What about, why do we do microdermabrasions?
It's all basically going back to the same thing. So lasers, which I haven't talked about yet, all of those things are going to be basically taking off that epidermal layer. So you're going to be getting rid of all of that dry and damaged skin and exposing some of the fresher skin that's below.
Okay, lasers.
So
yes.
We have a variety of those too.
What are the most popular right now that people are coming in for?
So Cool Peel is very popular. CO2 lasers, erbium lasers, they're all going to target different things, and they're going to target different levels of the skin. So if you do something as aggressive as a CO2 laser, then you're going to be looking at significant downtime. And again, downtime is going to be things like the peeling and redness, hyperpigmentation that eventually goes away. But you're looking at about 8 to 10 days. If you do things like erbium lasers, Cool Peels, which are just very similar to a CO2 laser, just not quite as aggressive, then you're going to be looking at like 3 to 5 days of some of those hyperpigment before the pigment goes away, as well as the peeling.
So let me ask you this. So the people who are coming in for the lasers, what is their skin looking like that they need to have that done? Because for me, I wouldn't want to have that downtime. I have a life that I'm always in front of the camera. If someone's saying, okay, I just want to come in and just have that glow come back again, they probably wouldn't want to have the laser, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Right. You would want to have 3 or 4 days that you would want to avoid things like it. You can put makeup over the top of your skin afterward, but you're kind of defeating the purpose of really, getting rid of some of that damage and letting the skin kind of heal from the outside or from the inside out. So for those of us that do not have the ability to kind of hide away for 5 to 10 days, then things like the less aggressive aggressive peels, the hydrofacials, and then just a really good skincare regimen is often enough to take care of those issues.
And I love the fact that you said, Jamie, nor you push products, because I think one of the reasons why a lot of people do not want to go to spas and do these things is because they always feel like at the end of it, it is, hey, by the way, here's all the things you should be buying from me. And it becomes a ridiculously expensive day. You come home and go, oh my gosh, did I really need all of this? And you didn't research it. You felt pushed into buying it that day. You don't do that.
We do not do that. Now that being said, we do have things that are available there. And what we want to do is just provide you with an experience. And then if you leave and you say, I really love the way my skin felt, then you can ask for it. And we're happy to help you with that. Or if you come in and you say, I'm really having a hard time getting rid of the dark circles under my eyes, or I have this age spot that just popped up that I want to get rid of. Those are the things that we can help you with, and provide things like either over-the-counter creams, prescription creams, or some kind of procedure for.
I've seen some of the work that you've done in some of these pictures and video, and after it's done and people are able to see that they didn't have to continue to look that way, their response has got to be amazing to you.
It is. It's very heartwarming, particularly patients that have had things like, we take care of things like hemangiomas or birthmarks. We're even able to remove, as long as they've been checked out by a dermatologist, moles, skin tags, those kind of things. Those are people get very, very self-conscious about those things. So, anything that you can do to improve how they feel about themselves, even if it's something that you and I probably wouldn't even notice, then that makes for a very happy patient.
Absolutely, Sarah. And I want people to have more empathy because, again, that's the biggest thing you can say is, well, I don't see it. I love you for who you are. You're beautiful, and you all are. And I wish you would see that more. That's that whole self-love that I'm always trying to teach in each and every one of you. But we're not saying that it's easy, because you will see a scar. You will see an imperfection, and you'll tear yourself apart. Okay, if it really hurts that much, then this is what I'm saying, that these things are available. Again, I would have you do a consult with Sara and her staff. She would go through the medical background. You don't want to ever go to a place where they don't do that kind of an in-depth thing. That's why, look, I was very, very selective on who I have on this show. People have come to us and I've said, no, I have very high standards and I have integrity. And this woman and I spoke for 3 hours the day we first met before we realized we really align with each other. What she provides to the world is far beyond the medical side. If it was just a med spa, no, it is all the levels of what you're doing and how you're changing people's lives, which is what I love. I have a client that I personal trained that has rosacea really bad, and she hates it. And it's like, well, what can I do for that? There's things for rosacea as well that we were discussing. My brother has, I've lived with my brother growing up in our early years at home. He had a very, very deep, dark birthmark. And no matter what I said, it was like, you're so handsome, I don't see it. But I didn't live with it. So he's done certain things, but I think I'd like to send him to you because there's still some aspects of it. My sister-in-law has looked into aspects as well, because back then, and we're talking a long time ago, they actually took a graft of skin from his collarbone and put it on here. And some doctor said to my mom, you got to stop that, because all it would have been is a bunch of skin patchwork. So, but he still has that, and he wishes that something could be done with that. So I don't know. It would be interesting to see what you could do.
We would love to take a look.
I'm going to send him your way for sure. So again, if anybody is interested in the IV hydration therapy, just for yourself or for the athletes we talked about, any of the skincare as we're going from summer into fall, then the whole change from fall into winter and that crazy cold weather that hits our face as soon as we walk out the door, I want you to check them out. So give them all the information if they've not been to you before.
Okay, so we are Invita Health and Wellness. We're located at 333 South Kirkwood Road, Suite 300. So we're up on the 3rd floor, and it is in the PNC Bank building. So that throws people off sometimes. So PNC is in the building that we're in, but we're up on the top floor.
And your phone number?
314-394-0950.
Fantastic. And once again, we thank Sara for everything that she has done for this show. It's the reason we're able to provide all these incredible interviews each and every day. And I love all of you that have been responding. We have had an incredible reach, and it's because of her, it's because of her staff, and it's because of their belief in us and then your belief in watching the show as well. We're going to take our final quick break. I'm going to let you choose, Sara, because we always end, as you know, with a devotional. A lot of people pick their favorite color, but so 100 days to freedom from these type of things, imperfections that you see in yourself, and just releasing the anger, maybe the overeating, the depression, The fear and anxiety or the shame? Which one would you like?
Let's do shame.
Shame. Shame it is. We're going to release you from the shame when we return. Invita Health and Wellness, where you can feel your best both inside and out. Invita isn't your typical med spa. They're a multi-specialty medical spa and wellness center serving St. Louis and its surrounding areas. They have ketamine for mental health and pain, IV therapy, medical weight loss, and aesthetics treatments. As board-certified anesthesia providers, Invita can ensure that their advanced treatments are provided safely with minimal to no pain. So let Invita take care of you. Call 314-394-0950 to book an appointment or online invitahealthandwellness.com. Thank you again for tuning in today to the Real Monica Adams Show. As we always do, we wrap up with a testimonial, again, trying to break you from the fear and anxiety in your life, the depression in your life, the overeating that happens, and the shame. Sara picked shame for today, so this one's called Rude Awakenings. It's day 11, by the way, of 100 Days to Freedom from Shame. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. That's John 8, verse 32. Shirley Temple, that was actually one of my favorites. Shirley Temple was one of the most famous child movie stars in history from 1934 to 1938. She was Hollywood's #1 box office draw, even though she wasn't even 10 years old yet. She once told the story of how, when she was 6, her mother took her to sit on the knee of a department store Santa. The man playing Santa recognized her and promptly asked for her autograph. Shirley called it a rude awakening. She said she knew at that moment that something was off with the guy in the red suit. If you're struggling with shame, it could be that you've had a rude awakening, that some belief you once held has been shattered. Perhaps you believed you would always be strong enough to resist a certain temptation. Maybe you thought you were slick enough to keep some sinful behavior a secret from the people close to you. Perhaps you placed your trust in someone who turned out to be a con artist, right? Don't shame yourself for that. It's on them. Whoever said the truth hurts wasn't joking. It often feels like a wrecking ball crashing into our lives and laying waste to our cherished beliefs. But of all the pains that we can suffer in life, this may be the most helpful. To finally be liberated from a lie and free to move forward in truth sets us up for greater success and happiness, even if it hurts at that time. When you suffer a rude awakening, don't focus on the rude part. Just thank God for the actual awakening. James Garfield said, "The truth will set you free, but first, it'll make you miserable." So today's prayer: Heavenly Father, thank you for always telling me the truth, even when it hurts. I pray that you will always put my welfare ahead of my feelings in your dealings with me, right? So 100 days to freedom from that shame. We really have to start releasing from our vocabulary, shame on me or shame on them. It's just release the shame. 100 days to freedom from that. Sara, thank you again so much for coming in today. We will see her again. We've got some other great shows to do together. We've got a lot to do together because we are together in this partnership to change the world. Physically, mentally, spiritually, face, body, all of it. Some great advice that she gave you today. So if you missed any part of it, please go back and then do me a favor and share that on so we can spread like wildfires. We can spread it all throughout the United States and in other countries, because now we had somebody tune in from England the other day. I loved that. Sara, thank you. I look forward to seeing you very soon.
Thank you very much.
And to you, thank you. Remember, as we end every show, you have so much potential. You just have to look at yourself and tell yourself that over and over and over again and believe in yourself. So go out in this world and be anything you want to be. But before you do that, first, be kind. God bless you all.